I'd like to say thank you, that I'm humbled. I'd like to send out a special thank you to Dr. Polly Rykowski, Joni Anker, Ross Eichley, and Jodine Wortman from Egan, who were at the forefront of nominating me for this honor, along with my good friends, Katie Wyckoff from Apple Valley, Mr. Bob Marks, who's retired, Tommy Lindsay, and several others who have been very, very highly supportive of me throughout my career and have allowed me this opportunity to join many of them in the Hall of Fame for the National Speech and Debate Association.
I mean, overall, I'm incredibly humbled. I feel like I have looked at the Hall of Fame as one of those iconic organizations, sort of a social club, and I guess sort of the pinnacle of your career. But you look at that and you see groups of just a group of amazing educators and coaches. To be, I guess, even nominated was just a shock, because I never had imagined that, my name would be up there, revered and looked upon in the same way that the many, many inductees before me had been given, that position.
I can safely say that speech and debate was my whole life. My family came first. Speech and debate was a close second. A lot of bus rides, early mornings. I owe it all to Glenn, Joe, Bill, and Chris, but more importantly to my wife Terry and Brad and Joel, my two sons, both of whom spent 4 years in the speech and debate program. The Chesterton community has been supportive of our program right from 1968, when they started, by a man by the name of Michael Harris. In 1968, approached Glenn to start a program at Chesterton High School. We owe all of our support and community action from Mike Harris's beginning. He supported us and continues to support us, even though he's retired.
My colleagues in North Texas have been absolutely wonderful and supportive individuals for almost anything that I wanted to do. My school district, Plano Independent School District, was very supportive of all the speech activities, all the things, the opportunities that we wanted to provide for students. But especially my dear colleague, Robert Shepard, who mentored me in more ways than I can count and supported me in almost everything I wanted to do. And so I'd like to thank the North Texas coaches, and especially Robert Shepard.
Good evening. I've been asked to accept on behalf of Mollie Martin Broussard the honor you've bestowed on her by electing her to the National Speech and Debate Association Hall of Fame. As her husband of 50 years and as the former president of the Bel Air High School NFL chapter in 1961, I'm pleased to do so. It doesn't seem necessary to recite Mollie's incredible record of success as a debate coach at Purcell, Oklahoma, and Bel Air, Texas. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. Instead, I would like to read to you some of her own words explaining why she thought it was worthwhile to devote so many hours, so many days, so many nights, so many weekends, so many holidays, trying to teach high school students to become proficient, persuasive speakers and debaters. No doubt many of her thoughts will describe your own reasons for devotion to the same task. Mollie published a course guide entitled Fundamentals of Oral Communication. In the introduction, she wrote the following: "Never before in the history of civilization has the ability to communicate effectively been more important than it is today. Never before have so many diverse voices clamored for public attention and competed for our acceptance. The inability to communicate can be costly. An ill-conceived phrase may bring a nation to the brink of war. A failure to reach an audience can cost a political candidate his election. And the inability to articulate his thoughts can deny man economic advancement. Yet some people are indifferent, if not hostile, to the idea of studying to improve their ability to communicate because they've been led to believe that experience and not knowledge and training is the real teacher. But learning through trial and error can be both time-consuming and costly. A nation in search of a leader will not wait while he learns to reach the people. An employer will promote the man who is prepared to speak, not the man who is almost prepared. Effective oral communicators are not born that way. Though many have an innate talent, every successful communicator must develop his talents with years of study and practice. The purpose of this course is to enable the student, as a citizen in a democratic society, to understand the history and theory of oral communication, to understand the principles underlying the composition of communication, and to think coherently and communicate clearly. One of the greatest dangers facing any society that believes in freedom of speech is the unrestricted use of that freedom. Freedom of speech should not be used to destroy, to distort, or to deceive. The best defense of this most vital freedom is an understanding of the nature of the communicative act, an appreciation of the spoken word, and a knowledge of the principles of thought and communication. The ability to speak effectively will enable us to challenge those who would use freedom of speech for their own unjustified ends. Silence may be golden, but silence is no defense against the tyranny of words. A democratic society such as ours demands citizens who are trained communicators, men and women who can think clearly, listen critically, and respond effectively by speaking persuasively. Most of us may never be called upon to render the final decisions on the great issues of national policy, but each of us must be able to communicate effectively our position on the questions that affect our daily lives. No citizen who is concerned can justify his inability to participate in the public debate on his failure as a communicator. Mollie also believed that no teacher who is a concerned citizen can justify her failure to train her students to become persuasive speakers. Thank you again for recognizing Mollie's contribution to the effort you all share to train citizens and future leaders of our free society. If you would care to read the comments of many of Mollie's other former students on the impact she had on their lives, I refer you to the obituary pages for Mollie Broussard on the website dignitymemorial.com. Thank you again.